Hello! Hi there, hello. My name is heyHAE, and I am the she behind AstroloShe and AstroloSheCraft, and welcome back to the heyHAE podcast. That's me, my podcast. Hello. Today, I have thought about this idea for the podcast before the podcast even was born last fall. And something that happens to me in the shower on a frequent basis is I ask myself questions. Like, I give myself interview questions and I answer myself as if someone had queued that question up to me. So today we're gonna do that very thing, but in a recorded format, so everyone else can hear me and not just me muttering to myself or my husband overhearing me when he chills with me in the bathroom while I take a shower. This is gonna be kind of like an open interview. I have found on the Reddit the most common interview questions that you must be prepared for, and there's 5 of them. And I figured I would read these questions aloud and then answer them to my, I don't know, my most clearest ability, in effort to perhaps answer some questions prior to an employer wanting to have a conversation or asking these questions and they're like, oh, well, Miss AstroloShe has a YouTube channel. We're gonna find out all the dirt. I mean, there's dirt to be found, so happy hunting. But I figured I would answer some questions so that you already know. And maybe if you're out there either looking to be hired or looking to share more about yourself, maybe a format like this could inspire you and you'll follow suit. I don't know. We'll see. But the first question is, so tell me about yourself. So I'm going to answer this one of 2 ways. In my most recent interview conversation that I had, it was split up between business and personal. So I'm going to split it up that way because there are multiple personas at play. So me telling you about myself on a business professional front, I am a full-time illustrator and graphic designer. I also do some illustrative work with Etsy. A lot of stickers. I do print illustration. I do digital downloads. I do digital artwork for the IMVU community as well as Twitch communities. And I do a considerable amount of admin work on the back end for my sorority that I'm a co-founder of, Di Gamma Omega Chi, established in 2018, shameless plug. I also am a huge nerd about SEO. Anything that's organic and like unpaid, I really love to be able to claw my way into that and get that information, especially because it's kind of it's more of a love language, in my opinion. And so being able to kind of unscramble the letters and put it together and be able to translate what it means is really fun. And I also do that with my Etsy data. So that's been really fun to relearn as I'm working toward my Google Analytics certification once more. Outside of that, I love working with customers. I love, and I mean, there was a gap there, and we're going to address the gap and we'll break the 4th wall. I love working with customers when I'm allowed to approach it in a creative way and not just be forced to do a certain thing based on what my supervisor, who has no idea how my job works, is telling me what to do. That's when I like to deal with customers, is when I have that creative flow and I have that freedom to work with them as I need and then have that support. Okay? Okay. Let's see. And then in a personal sense, if you guys listened to last week's podcast, I did go on about Minecraft for a long time, but I do love puzzles. I love puzzle games. I love having to think. I love word problems. I love sudoku. I am a huge video gamer. I currently am addicted to Yes Minecraft. I also dabble in Fortnite Festival, specifically in their tycoon modes, because they're just really fun. I also really enjoy The Sims 4. I love building. That's what I do on the IMVU platform as well, as I like to build rooms and environments and outfits. And I don't really like to play the scenarios. I just like to build. And then, also in the gaming sphere, shout out to Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 and OpenRTC that lets me play it on this updated Windows 11 PC. Um, and then, on the other side of gaming, outside of video, I play Gundam Card Game, which is similar to like a One Piece or a Pokemon or a Digimon. We come together at least once a week, if not twice a week. We try to go twice a week when the funds make sense, when the travel makes sense. It's a small community. It's mostly male dominated. I am one of the only females that's in the pond that is at least in my locals. I have a loving, wonderful husband who never gives up on me. God bless him. I love you, David, if you're listening to this. Which you should be. But he never gives up on me. I don't have any pets. I don't have any kids. I am my own kid. I have the temper tantrums to prove it, sweetie. And yeah, there's, much more that I could rattle on about, but I will save those nuggets for a later time. Question 2. Why do you want to work here? Now, the here is very subjective because I don't necessarily... This is not an interviewer, interviewing me for an actual position. So, we're going to talk about it if it's AstroloSheCraft. And why do I want to work here? Well, if I'm going to be honest with you, I've been unemployed since last August. I've said this famously, but my 11-year anniversary happened on that Monday, and on that Friday I was let go. I took a VSO offer from the company. I had been there, like I said, 11 years. And though work brought me things like panic attacks, it brought me probably closer to an eating disorder. It brought me into depression. It also gave me an outlet for my frustration. It gave me an outlet to be creative in challenging ways. It gave me an outlet that the day was never the same. And especially, at its peak in the few roles that I held within the company. At its peak, it really pushed me to grow and be inspired by new things that I would have probably never approached myself. So I am craving the routine back. I'm craving new puzzles. I'm craving that challenge that is kind of tough to chew, but working hard enough, it will be a good challenge. And I'm also missing a team. That was one of the best parts about being with my former company for so long, is even through every single role, there were people who were still in the company who, when I started as a graphic artist at the lowest totem pole that I was, I've been on in the company, and I ended on my highest piece of totem pole. But even when I, entered this company, there's still people here who came in with me, or they were here, or they came right after me as graphic artists, that if I wanted to get in teams, the same company teams that I've always been in, I can always send a message. I can send messages to some of my former managers that still work there and say, hey, happy birthday, or hey, I saw you on a slide, I just want to say I'm so proud of you. I'm missing the camaraderie, I'm missing the community, especially when we have shared struggle, and shared puzzles, because I love puzzles. I love breaking them down and building it back up. So, as far as why I want to work here specifically, I love the challenge of being, AstroloSheCraft that is, I love the challenge of being in a niche vertical. I love the fact that I should say AstroloSheCraft. We'll role play. Fourth wall break. I'm so sorry. Fourth wall break again. We're gonna role play a little bit. But I love the fact that AstroloSheCraft seems to go into these male-dominated spaces, and make a point that females can also live in here. Not just females, but anybody who's more feminine identifying that doesn't crave the war and the blood and the space battles and the, these kind of things. I've always been drawn to those kind of motifs, whether it's Star Wars or, even games kind of like Overwatch, where, especially in the beginning, maybe not so much now, but, it's more of a male-dominated experience. Like, or you take, these video games like a Resident Evil, or you take games that are like Helldivers or things like that. Halo is another big one, where the main character that does all the action is generally male. And I think that that's a little crazy town, crazy bananas. And so, I love the fact that AstroloSheCraft tries to step into these spaces and bring the lavender, bring the baby pink, bring the heart shapes, bring the soft lines and the curved edges. And it's not all just putting it on something, mass producing it, and hoping someone buys it. There's intent behind every single thing that ASC does. So question 3. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Excellent question, Me. Thank you for asking. I think I will start with my weaknesses. First of all, I have a communication issue, and that has always been the elephant in my room. No matter how big the room size is, that's the elephant there. I have a hard time communicating back to people. What happens is I will get a question or a query or a complaint or something that I need to dig into. And this could also be a positive, going above and beyond kind of thing. Like, oh, I want to look into that for you. I'm curious. My brain will then spiral so fast and so hard with 15 tabs open. I've got 3 programs, and then I got additional 4 chats asking people questions, that I forget the email or the chat or the text that came in originally asking for that question. And then it's, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, like a business day later, and I still have not responded, even though that question has been incredibly top of mind. I've been digging for a long time, and the digging feels so good because I love that. I forget that they can't read my mind. Even though I know that I claim to, be psychic in some regards, I have some psychic intuition. Not everyone else outside of me has that, so they can't just guess that I'm working really hard on it. Therefore, one of my biggest weaknesses is that I need to be better at communication and communicating that, hey, I'm looking into this for you. Hey, here's some updates. I know that I don't have a final answer for you, but here's a couple things that I've already found, or here's some thoughts that I'm working through right now. I'll let you know when I have the final conclusion. That's one of my biggest weaknesses. Another weakness of mine is that I do let my emotions play a big part. Emotions in me are something that I can't just bottle and try to forget about and shove them into the closet or shove them under the mattress or whatever it is. I do wear my emotions on my sleeve, so, getting that really harsh email from a client may spiral my day. And that's something that I am actively working on, whether that's techniques on, grounding myself, or making sure that I kind of force myself to take breaks and, maybe not go touch grass, but, at least step out on the patio, or, go get the mail, or go take the trash out, so I can get, a different change of environment, and then just, let it go, or just get in the shower and, cry about it for a second. And then be okay. That's also a weakness of mine, is the keeping the emotions in check. The emotions are big and mighty. I am, if you're into astrology like me, I am a Cancer moon and a Cancer rising. And so you can do a little Google search on that. But TLDR, I have a lot of emotions. They're very big, and because of my Aquarius nature, I can spiral out of control really easily and really fast, both in good ways and in bad ways. So now talking about strengths, I have a huge strength with talking to customers. Even though there's been times where I swear up and down, I don't want a customer service job. I don't want to talk to customers. I'd rather do stuff behind the scenes. I'm really good at talking to clients, even if they're upset, because I take an approach every time with, number one, education, making sure that the client is almost as educated as I am on whatever subject. So a lot of my more recent customer service client facing products have been SEO focused, in the eyes of like account management. And I always take more comfort. Yes, I am the expert, first of all. Yes, I am the expert in the room. But I take a lot of comfort when I can teach and train a client to know what to look for. Not in the sense of like, oh, they're so smart, leave our company and not pay us money. Haha, you're so smart. Not in like trying to get them to leave because like I'm teaching them how to do my job, but in the fact that either I throw a slide up on the screen when I'm screen sharing, or if I share a link to, a Google Analytics piece of data, a dashboard, if you will, or a report that I've generated, they would be able to kind of see the keywords and understand what they're looking at and not be frightened. I feel like a lot of the more sour customer relationships I've had is because the client didn't know what was going on, or they perceived that they didn't know what was going on, and maybe they were in their head too. And so I find that education is very key. And then also just being a human being to them. Of course, I can be the buttoned up customer service individual. I can be that account executive, account manager. I can put on the corporate attire. Even when I have all those things on and the bells and whistles are present, I find it very important to be a human being to these individuals. Still, trying to keep the language professional and things, but, I don't want to talk about the weather with you. I would rather spiral off and talk about Tabitha's Salon Takeover from Bravo from like 25 years ago. And be like, do y'all remember that show? Or, talk about a theme park that's close by to this business that I'm obsessed with. Shout out to Holiday World. And shout out to Jago Holmes. I miss you guys. But I'm really good at customer service. To circle back, I'm very great at customer service, even if I try to reject it and push it away. I'm really freaking good at it. I'm also really good, or I should say I have a strength, in organizing data and making processes out of the data. If I have control over how to create the process, I will continually evolve that process. And every time I look at it, it'll be like, how can I make this better? How can this be improved? How can this be easily digestible? How can this be better for the future iterations of me? I grew up around Girl Scouts, and so leave it better than you found it is a big thing that was instilled in me, both by Girl Scouts and by my grandmother. And so when I look at these processes, whether it's making training documents or if it's looking, for my sorority as an example, looking how we can better organize our book of business so that we have better organized information, but also, make those screen recording tutorials so that everybody, even past me, if I'm not involved with the organization anymore, can have these tools. And so a strength of mine, looking at processes and constantly looking for ways to upgrade them and make them even better and make them classic and timeless, and not just situational. So, okay, cool. We're going to move on to the next question. Why do you want to switch? I assume that this means job. The question literally says, why do you want to switch? So the Chick-fil-A answer, which is my corporate version of myself, my voice, would say something along the lines of, I'm looking for a new challenge, and, I was in a stable position. There were a little bit of changes happening. That's probably not the best way to phrase that, but there were changes happening that didn't really align with my goals and my trajectory that I was planning for myself. So I felt it was time to step away. The real answer that I'm going to give you is that I was starting to really feel like I was in stride with my role as a digital presence manager in my former company. Even past me not getting along with my manager, at least from my POV, I did not really get along with my direct manager for like the last, I think, year and change that I was a digital presence manager. The role that I was like, I felt like I was in a groove. I was helping, build these training materials and helping onboard people and like making that process and like helping clients, and it was all of a sudden dissolved. It was not a decision by our department, and a consolidation happened where the manager that I didn't see eye to eye with put me into a role that did not fit well with me. And ultimately, when the voluntary severance offers came out, this was the first time that I actually put my name down on a sheet. And then instead of offboarding, it was kind of a severed all at once. And yeah, so that is why I want to switch, is because I want to find a way back to the camaraderie. I want to find a way back to the puzzles. I want to find a way back to small business that I feel like I can actually impact small business on a more personal level rather than more of a corporate level. Great, thank you. So the fifth and final question, do you have any other questions? And this is where I would ask employers, you would ask the person interviewing you, like, some questions. Here are some open-ended questions that I kind of have for, like, the next interview that I have. So if you maybe are a future employer, or if you are on your way to interviews, maybe you pop these questions out. I don't know your life. But the first question I have is, how is your sales staff trained? This is assuming that I'm going to do a similar like account management kind of role, and that's what I'm going for. How is your sales staff trained and supported? So like if your salesperson, your sales rep has a question, do they go to kind of a void email and hope that they hear back soon, or do they have a point of contact that is that champion of that information? I asked this question because that was one of the biggest pain points toward the end of my, well, maybe not the end. It was a considerable pain point just in general. It felt like our sales staff were just kind of being whipped to go sell faster, get the money. But when it came to process changes or educating them about products like SEO that they weren't familiar with selling, they just kind of threw it to the wayside. Or, the variety of education levels varied so heavily that a lot of the solution was like, oh, just email blah, blah, blah at company.com with your question and somebody will get back to you. It's like, that's the most frustrating thing on earth. Like, that would drive me crazy. Even if I didn't necessarily get along with my direct manager, I know that I could go to her with some questions at minimum, and she would help me find somebody. Or I had a team where or a team chat, where we could just kind of all combine, come together, put questions in a chat, and somebody would like get back to it quickly. The reps don't have that, or they didn't have that in my last company, at least toward the end. So that's one of the questions that I would ask. Another question I would ask my interviewer is, what is the budget for this position? Market rates are a little weird, especially based on experience and things like that. I would rather know what the budget is before I give any kind of range of salary expectation. Because at the end of the day, I need a paycheck, yes, but I also want to make it fair to myself so that if I have to undergo the anxiety, which there will always be anxiety, it's just, how you deal with it. I want to make sure that that anxiety is paid for, and or I can pay for ways to help myself get through it. Um, so that would be another question I would ask. A third question I would probably ask an employer, if they didn't want to talk about benefits or anything like that. Like, we would probably skip that. But I would ask them, do you have health? Do you have medical? Do you have dental? Do you have vision? What is the compensation like? Are we talking like a 1099? Are we talking contractor? What does the pay frequency look like? What are the options there? And then what is the paid time off policy? Are we managed time off where you kind of have unlimited hours, but like, you can't like just take every single day off? Or do we have like accrued PTO, paid time off? I would want to make sure that that question's answered. I know that sometimes like it's too early in the process with some of these interviews, but that's something that's incredibly important to me. And then 2 more questions I'll leave you with that I would ask an employer. The fourth question would be, what is the one pain point today? Like, I'm talking today. Maybe it's one task. Maybe it's something that's been gnawing on you. But what is one task that if I had this role today that I could help you solve today? And like, walk me through that. Maybe it's you want to figure out why there's a retention problem. Maybe it's you want to figure out why the training is not super effective. Or maybe you want to figure out why this client is just so upset. Like, the budget is spending correctly, the geos are spending correctly. Why is this client upset? And with the role that I'm interviewing for, regardless if that's account manager or if that's a training or even a graphic designer role, how can I help with that? And then the final question that I'll leave you with is that, how is team retention, and what has been the frequency over the last probably 2 to 3 years? I want to know, is this a high churn situation? Is this a high turnover rate? Or are people legacy here? And they really don't leave unless they really have to. So, yeah. And then if you had an honorable 6th question, the funny one, I asked people for their zodiac sign. And I know it's weird. And that's probably not something you want to lead with, but like, if somebody is scared of me asking about a zodiac sign, I probably don't belong in that team anyways. Because I will want your birthday, and I will want to know. Whether you believe in the horoscopes and, the astrology, the zodiac of it all, or not, I will want to know. So that's my open interview. It's questions that are most common. I know that with my last conversation/interview, I was asked these questions. And so I hope that, I don't know, hearing my answers gets out into the ether. I feel like I'm saying it to the universe so that the universe can deliver it somewhere. Maybe you can steal one of my 6 questions for like your next interview, or not even an interview, like maybe it's something you can bounce off a friend who maybe owns a business, or it's something that you can think about how you'd answer it if you had to give an answer. Just a little bit of food for thought, a little bit of fruit roll-up to chew on, you know what I'm saying? But that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We are looking forward here. If you are local to the Indianapolis area, PopCon Indy is coming up on May 8th through May 10th. So just a little bit over a month from when I'm recording this on April 2nd. If you're in the area, we're going to be there. And by we, I mean me and Brightside Creative. So AstroloSheCraft X Brightside Creative Studio is going to be at PopCon. We're going to be sharing a booth together and selling our wares. So if you're in the area, stop on by. Please come see us and say hi, especially if you hear it from one of our podcasts. It'll be definitely magical, and it'll light us both up. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you super soon. Bye.